Hello, everyone. My name's Hank Setala,
And I'm Casey MacBride.
and we're here with another fun episode of Stir Crazy Shamans. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I think Casey has some video stuff to share with us. And if you notice, like even my video for an error occurred. That's weird. Anyway, you saw the picture that I picked for the cover for today. It was all a frozen winter wonderland. Casey has been literally taking a deep dive into cold exposure and had another very
Yeah.
last week. So, and it's somebody that I'm going to connect with too. Just like the days that they're meeting right now haven't lined up for me to be able to connect and dive into this literal 32-degree freeze tank. But give us an overview. What have you been up to over the last week with this cold therapy?
Oh man, it's been so cool. It's been so much fun. Big thing nowadays, like Wim Hof is kind of the guy who's really popularized all this and made it um, uh, more accessible to people that otherwise wouldn't know about it. I mean, if you go on and you look up breath work or cold exposure or both, or whatever, on YouTube, Wim Hof is like the guy who pops up. And so he was definitely an inspiration along with this other guy, Troy Casey, the certified health nut, that I was on one of his live streams. They were inspirations for my new friends, Anthony and Mary, to start their own business doing mindfulness coaching through breathwork and cold exposure. And so, I've been hanging out with them at least 1 or 2 days a week. On Thursdays, I've been going over there and I do energy healing for them. And then we do breath work and all kinds of stuff. And then I hop in his portal is what he calls it. And it's basically it's a Frigidaire deep freezer. Like the big kind that you would store, like, just all your frozen food in. But it's modified. Not really even modified. They just set it to a certain temperature. And I didn't know this, but for whatever reason, the way the insulation works with all of it, the water can actually get below 32 degrees, which, 32 degrees is the freezing point of water. So it's actually, and when I went in it yesterday, it was 28 degrees. So it was actually a few degrees colder than freezing. So it's really powerful. Talk about a tool to I mean, there are many physical benefits. So, it like resets your lymphatic system. It really has a lot of cardiovascular benefits. But for me, it's the mental benefits is why I really love it so much. And it just brings you right here, right now. I mean, you're not thinking about, what you're about to be doing after this, or like being hungry, and you're not thinking about like what you did yesterday. You are right here, right now, in the moment.
And all you're thinking is, damn, it's cold, is what you're thinking about.
So this is a really interesting thing. When you hit cold water like that, right? So you have this instinct, your body kind of goes into shock. So you have this instinct of like, to breathe really rapidly like that, and you could very easily pass out, and that's the big danger. Like if people are, like out in the wilderness or like walking on a frozen lake or something, and they fall in, they start to gasp and panic, and then they either breathe in water or they just pass out, and then that's really like the danger of how they die. So one of the things that you do is you use the breath to control your internal state. So the first thing you do is, you allow yourself to take that first gasp of air, but then you control, and you do a very slow controlled exhale. So no matter if your body wants to, that's fine, but then you just blow out a controlled exhale. And within, for me, even just 1 or 2 breaths, I'm at this place where I'm completely calm, perfectly still, no thoughts in my head. And the really fascinating thing is you get to a point where you start to play with your perception, because all of this, even intense cold, is all just sensation. It's all just energetic information being interpreted by the neurons of your body, which are then reorganized in the neurons in your brain. So you can literally play with how you perceive these sensations. So to me, when I'm in that ice bath, I don't feel cold. And when I'm in below freezing water, I don't feel cold. I do. The one thing that I do feel, other than like, I feel tingling sensations all throughout my body, and a lot of other interesting sensations. The only thing I feel pain in my toes. That's about it. And it's not even, it doesn't even register as cold in my head. It's just pain because there's no blood in my toes. And that's something you can work with. And your cardiovascular system adapts over time, but I'm still new to that kind of cold. So, so that's the only thing is I get painful in my toes. Other than that, my body doesn't feel cold. I get out, last time I was in there for a little over 4 minutes in that ice, fully submerged. Mm-hmm. And I got out and I was not shivering or anything. I didn't feel cold. The only thing was this, I just knew there was no circulation in my feet. So, you do some movement and stuff to get the blood flowing again. But it's really fascinating. And they've shown, like Wim Hof is one of the guys who's had a lot of the research done. So he's had people go and look at his brain and take brain scans. Like he sat in an MRI machine where they've exposed him to cold and while he's done his breathing and all this other stuff. And they've shown that it actually gives you access to the deepest part of the brain, that reptilian part of the brain. I can't remember the name of it. It's like right on your brainstem. Maybe, no, I don't feel like that's right.
Well, we'll Google it later.
Yeah. But anyway, so this is the part of our brain that it controls the autonomic nervous system. What is she saying? Did you jump in the cold water again?
Yeah,
is it safe to do often?
Well, he did it in person the other day, like with a group of people, which I think he has some video about. And then he went yesterday and like jumps in this ice tank again. Is it safe to do? You definitely want an accountability buddy. Like when he was going to Lake Erie, he called me and I was busy, but Mary went out with him. And you definitely want to do it with a buddy system for sure, because just in case you do kind of
especially if you're sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say, especially if you're going outdoors, if you're jumping into like a real body of water, like a lake or a river, there are real dangers of, especially if it's covered in ice, you could get swept under the ice and you could die very easily. But if you're in a controlled environment, like if you're in just like someone's cold tank or like you're just in an ice bath, or you're taking cold showers and everything, absolutely. It's not only is it safe to do often, it's extremely healthy. There are many, many proven health benefits.
Well, with an ice chest like they have, I would probably still want a buddy for that. But like just a cold shower, you're probably okay. And is that really beneficial, just turning it on as cold, or do you want to like get some bags of ice and like actually do an ice bath if you wanted to recreate this at home? Like how cold do you get to have a benefit?
No, a cold shower will do it for sure. Cold shower will give you all the benefits of cold exposure. And so there are a couple ways to do it. Some people like to ease their way in, and they'll start out taking their warm shower like they're used to, and then if you really don't like the cold, the way you do it is you just slowly like turn it a little bit colder, give it a minute, a little bit colder, give it a minute, and then work your way down to cold. But what I do is I like in the morning, I do like to take my nice warm shower, but then at least a couple of times throughout the day, I turn it as cold as it can go. And I go from dry, to jumping into as cold as the shower can get. And to me, that's where a lot of the benefit is because what we're doing, because cold is a form of stress, just like any other form of stress. It's a form of stress on the body. So when we purposefully stress our bodies like this, and then we learn to control our reaction to it. So instead of and freaking out, like I gotta get out, instead of doing all that, if you just breathe into it and you're able to actually engage the parasympathetic nervous system and be in that rest and digest, relaxed state of being while exposing yourself to this extreme stress, then your ability to deal with other stressors in your life becomes far more enhanced, so when you deal with, so that crappy thing that happened at your job or that traffic jam you're stuck in or the thing your kids did or that thing that got knocked over or whatever, all of these little stressors that in life sometimes can really have an impact on us and cause all of these harmful like cortisol levels to rise and like all these horrible neurochemicals and all of that. Instead, if you train your nervous system to adapt to stressors like the cold, then, you're able to control yourself much better. And another stressful example, if you can handle jumping in freezing cold water, then other things in your life just aren't going to phase you as much. Is basically the gist of it. But there are a lot of other benefits to it. The prefrontal cortex, our thinking mind, that incessant thinking mind that sits there and constantly tells you all of these things and makes judgments and thinks about the past and the future and worries about things and all that. That part of your brain really kind of shuts off, and then the Ursula parts of your brain, parts of your brain that are associated with like deep meditation. The Epsilon.
Yeah. So like monks who can go out in the cold and not be affected, like just walk around in the tundra, or like survive on like just a handful of rice for a month and things like that. That during brainwave studies, they are hitting something called epsilon, which is like half a hertz frequency. It's like super ultra low. And I had a couple clients who ordered like custom, like this huge set of like 30 custom tuning forks to hit different ranges that would include epsilon, different ranges for theta. And they were doing like experiments with getting into certain brain states. But then there's also lambda, which is a brainwave frequency of like 100 to 200 hertz, and like there's different parts of the brain that will go into these different states. So you would be in epsilon as well as in lambda, and that's where like this magical space happens, where you're like accomplishing like these physical feats that seem inhuman.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, what if we made binaural beats on an Audacity track and played it, or some tuning forks, and like played around with the tank to manipulate the brainwave frequencies while being in the cold exposure.
Oh, that's a fascinating
thing.
That's
like I'm already just feeling like this is like something. See, now I wasn't so excited about it till I started thinking about binaural beats and mixing
it. Well, you got to bring the sound. You're the sonic shaman. You can't get excited if there's a little sound involved.
Yeah, but you could even put it underneath other audio tracks and like have it in like headphones and just be listening. And I wonder, and then there's the whole element of, I think they call it biofeedback. Like I'm just thinking about in Lilydale, where there was like this one time when like we were all cold out walking a labyrinth in the middle of winter with like 3 feet of snow, and one of my colleagues was really cold, and I went to this place being centered, where I just put my hand on her back and just sent this pulse of energy out, and she got warm and almost was sweating with her coat on, just from like an energy manipulation. So like it's probably a really good time too to like tap in and start to play around with, well, what different energies could I use, and experience something other than the cold, and really discipline things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting access to these deeper parts of our brain, we access more of our ability to interact with the energy around us and within us. We gain a better control as we expand our awareness and our ability to control the parts of the brain. We expand our ability to control deeper aspects of ourselves spiritually and energetically as well. So many benefits on all levels. And I was seeing, going back to Jennifer, she was saying, I do take cold showers at the end of super hot showers, and it's absolutely refreshing.
And that's actually healthy too.
Sorry. I was going to say, in order to really get the full benefits of cold exposure, water needs to be, I think, maximum of 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which maybe unless it's like the middle of summer or something, most showers will get to 50, I believe. And then they say 2 to 3 minutes. You need 2 to 3 minutes of exposure to the cold in order to get the full benefits from it.
I was also thinking this is a tool for the body, because like how often do we go into fight or flight with our corporate world and everything, where say, hey body, this is actually the threat, what this experience does, and then all the other stuff, it's like the body's like, oh yeah, that's not a big deal. I think you were kind of saying that too, in just your own words.
Yes, cool absolutely.
Now, did you actually have videos of you being the crazy shaman in the cold tank this time, or what do you got? I know you.
I asked for Mary for clips; they never sent them. Let me go real quick and pull up YouTube and see if they posted the videos yet, because there were videos recorded. Let me pull up their YouTube channel.
While you do that too, like my main ethnicity is Finnish, and one of the things at my grade, like up in the Upper Peninsula, one of the things to do is you go to Aunt Inie's house and you would sit in the hot sauna, and then when you're done with that, you would like get out and literally roll around in the snow. And so that was like a huge thing, to get really warm, have all pores open, and then kind of shocking the body, rolling around, and it would almost create this altered state that you would that you would go into. And fun fact, it was Casey who told me, he's like, wait, what was your aunt's name? And Aini. He's like, you do realize that Aini, that's like the Quechua word for divine reciprocity. And I never had put that together. And then in a journey space, my aunt came to me and told me she was actually part of a lineage, and to ask my cousin Scott that she taught him what she knew. And so like I have this, I just got the phone number this past week to reach out to my aunt who can get me in touch with Scott. And it's going to be kind of a cool thing to see a spirit was just messing with me, and I'm going to be talking to my cousin and he's going to think I'm crazy, or I think it will be that he actually did have some knowledge to share. So it's going to be really fun.
So no, I can't. They haven't posted it on the YouTube channel, but I got a couple of pictures here we can throw up. But
I stalled perfectly for him to look at that.
You did. I got some pictures here. How do I put up kink? If I send you pictures, can you put them up on the screen?
Yeah, I probably can do it faster than if you try to tell me. Well, I could. I'll do it two ways. We'll see which way's faster. But yeah, I'm ready to receive the photos.
I just sent them to you.
3. Okay. Okay, so let me download these guys. I love their. This is just funny. I love it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, and it's something for a lot of people that's like really outside of their comfort zone. And I fully believe that in order for us to really grow as human beings, as spiritual beings, we do need to push ourselves sometimes. We need to get outside of our comfort zone, because that's where real change and growth happens. We have someone saying, "Morning, guys." A mysterious Facebook user saying. Morning, guys.
We were airing out when we were trying to go to the HHH group, so I don't know what that was about, but we are streaming to the group now. So if you're in the group, there's like a link that says give StreamYard access to know who you are, and then we actually see who you are. I mean, we could go stalk you and look in the group and see who you are, but we'll respect your privacy setting.
Right.
I have a bonus picture too.
Oh, nice.
That I picked. Oh, I only can do them one at a time. That's so crazy. Well, let me throw this one up. This is the first one I'm a little
to. So I'm here in the left-hand corner. There you can see me. But that was so cool. We all held hands in like this energy circle, and we were just running energy through each other. And that water, I think, was like in the lower 40s. So it was pretty cold in that lake. And yeah, it was just so much fun, man. It's one, the cold tank. Yeah, there we are. I think that was right afterward. Either we're getting out or we're getting in. Like, I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, some people definitely look colder than others, I will say that.
Yeah, for sure.
This one, I saved my favorite one for last, because here's Casey, arms up, like, yes, I'm conquering.
Yes, that was right after it. Everyone was yelling, and it was, so powerful, man. And to do that as a group, it's such an empowering thing. You really feel like you're coming together with this tribe of people who are all here to push their limits and find out what's possible for themselves and to help themselves grow and expand. It's just really cool, man.
The bonus picture, though, has nothing to do with cold exposure. This was Casey's vegan breakfast sandwich, and I just wanted to bring it up to show, like, if you go plant-based, it doesn't mean that you don't eat delicious things. And not to say that this is healthy, because vegan doesn't mean healthy, but you can have things that are delicious and elaborate in your life. So,
God, yeah.
That was the bonus picture.
Sausage, egg, and cheese with applewood smoked ham and mayo and mustard on an English muffin. All vegan. No animals died or suffered in the making of that sandwich. And oh my goodness, is it delicious. Yeah, there are some people that go vegan for their health reasons, and they'll eat all whole food, plant-based, and they don't eat any of those meat alternatives. So yeah, you don't have to eat any of that stuff. But for me, I went vegan for the animals. So like, I still want to eat delicious stuff. I just don't want to pay for any suffering. So I love and stuff.
Everybody makes their choice, of course, but I do want to say that because I want with the whole vegan thing, I just started asking my body what it wanted, and for me that was the natural course of ways, and it doesn't mean that it's boring at all. So, and I think Jennifer was kind of going towards a plant-based route. So if it feels like, if it's something you want to dive into, we'll do a whole stream on that, I think, of, so you're thinking about being plant-based and give tips and tricks and go there. Because I could see from the viewership, people are like, oh, they're talking about vegan stuff, I'm out. But truly, like, yeah, everybody make your own choice, though we have certainly points of view about it. And it's not our goal to impose points of view on anyone, but
No,
we can talk about how fun and easy and how many resources there are. Even my kids, man, vegan donuts, they're so excited about it. They don't even know, fully know that it's vegan. They just know it's delicious.
Oh, there's so much good stuff. It's funny too, because I thought there was going to be all this stuff I'd never get to eat again, and man, I still eat ice cream. I eat,
I probably eat more unhealthy now that I went vegan.
Oh, same.
See, that's why I just went through the cleanse, because my body's like, yo, man, you're junking it up pretty good on this vegan stuff. So I did like a 26-day cleanse where I ate nothing. I just had a lot of days of straight fasting. And then coming out now, I'm eating mainly raw. I did have a binge day yesterday. I had JoJo's and pizza. And now I'm back to eating salad for breakfast and stuff like that, and avocado wraps and all kinds of fun things. But yeah, it doesn't have to be boring for sure. But really, asking your body what contribution it needs, like the cold exposure for Casey was something his body required in order to heal certain things, in my opinion. Like, you didn't say it that way, but I have a knowing of it, perhaps.
Oh yeah.
And same thing with eating. Like, if you truly start tapping in, maybe you'll be eating meat, maybe you won't. Maybe your body's just like, yo, man, you're eating too many SpaghettiOs. Like, you really start tuning into the body. Like, I've had these cravings, pineapple and pistachios, can't get enough of it. Cannot get enough of it. And it's like you end up, if you follow the energies, you'll end up eating dietary choices you never thought possible, but it's really what your body needs for whatever's going on. Like right now, my body's like, yo, I need tools. You're going to eat salads for breakfast. You're going to have all this raw things. You're going to do this multivitamin. You're going to do this probiotic. You're going to do this for 2 to 3 weeks. And then we're diving back into another 3-week cleanse. And that one I'm going to document a lot more of. I was planning to do live streams and take videos of that, but this one was really personal. And then the next one I'm going to be a little bit more public and share some streams and things around it. So if other people want to do it, they can.
Speaking of fast and interesting dietary things, at one point I was studying. I was taking this course. It was called the Avatar Energy Mastery Institute, and
I love the name.
Yeah, it was great. The leader of the group ended up going really crazy. He was taking way too many psychedelics and things. But anyway, but there was a lot of great. I got a lot of great stuff out of it. And but one of the things he had people do is there was this particular. It was optional. If you wanted to follow this diet, this is a way you could eat in order to prepare, in order for your body to be a better vessel for energy to flow through. And one of the main things was that you ate far fewer calories than most people eat. So I think at the most I was eating 1,500 calories a day. Sometimes it was only 1,000 calories a day. And then you would eat really small meals, but you'd eat 10 meals a day. So you'd be eating every hour and a half to 2 hours, but a meal might be half an avocado or a half a grapefruit or a whole, something really small like that. You'd eat all the time. But man, I lost something 50 pounds in just a couple months. So I lost a lot of weight really quickly. And, but at the time that was a good contribution to my body because I was quite overweight back then.
That's great for the metabolism. They use the example a fire. If you let the fire die down and then you put a huge log on, it takes a long time to catch, a long time to burn.
Yeah.
But if you keep it stoked with smaller fuel, small twigs and things like that, then you keep that fire burning. And they use that as an analogy for the metabolism and how to keep it revved up.
Yeah, which is why it's interesting that so many people are going toward intermittent fasting. To me, it doesn't make sense, at least for my own body, because I know so many people.
You just like food.
Yeah, but I do. But to me, I knew if I want to lose weight, the way I do that is to eat all the time, but really small amounts. Whereas these people that do intermittent fasting, they go long periods of time without eating, and then all their food is within this short window, and they'll just eat big meals and things. Is what it seems like. So
there's other benefits to it though. For rats, well, They've done studies with lab animals, so this is not a vegan-friendly example. However, they found that rats that were subjected to intermittent fasting had, in general, a lot longer lifespans. And there's a lot of conjecture as to why that occurs. But one theory is you're giving the system chances to rest, and that it helps focus the body and detoxifying and all these other things, which I don't know if there's really been proven or not. But there's a lot of people that get benefits, and it's not about a metabolism thing. I think it's more like the detoxification type of stuff, and giving the system a break.
I can see that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it's interesting, it's interesting how many different ways people are finding to, change their bodily functions and enhance themselves. Like I was just talking at the last cold plunge that we did to some of the people that were there. There was this guy locally, Dr. Will, I think is his name. And he owns a business called Slack Cleveland. He's a chiropractor, but the way that he, I don't know what his exact story was. I see it something wrong with him. I don't know exactly what, but the way he kind of healed himself and brought himself back into homeostasis was through these slack lines. So it's like those, I'm sure you see people that it's like almost like walking across a tightrope, but people can like jump on them and do all kinds of tricks and stuff. And, but the way that he healed himself was just to walk on these slack lines. And I guess it's been studied, and like, it really rewires your brain, and like just, and having to find that balance and everything, like does incredible things for your neurochemistry and for the body as well. So, and him telling me about that, I was just like, man, how cool is this? Between all these things I've been getting into lately, hearing about that, the slackline thing, breath work, cold exposure, shamanic healing, sound healing. There's just so many incredible things, so many incredible modalities, so many ways and tools that we can take advantage of in order to heal ourselves, in order to bring ourselves into more alignment with being our perfect selves. And it's just so cool that all of this is out there for people to take advantage of. Because, I know when I first went through my awakening and I was looking into
oh no, I was looking at Mike's comment, but it's not. We'll talk about it after you're done with this.
Okay.
It made me. I remember reading about it, and it was like a really fascinating thing. But it's for next part 2 here.
Yeah. Well, we can just get into that because I lost my train of thought. So
I'm sorry. Well, because you got excited about, you saw my face, and I'm just like, well, they were talking about rat heaven. Like, there's this TED Talk. Have you heard about this?
I know the story very well.
Yeah. So like because I think he was talking about lab rats for that one thing, and then he jumped ship in a whole other conversation. But what they found is that for heroin and things like that, they had rats that if they didn't have anything to do and they were provided with one water bottle that had clean water, one water bottle that had heroin placed water, they would pick the heroin one and end up dying and all that. And then this one guy had this idea. Well,
hold on. We got to back up. We got to back up for a second. So these were studies. This is just the standard. This was how studies were done to see whether or not a drug was physically addictive. This is how they determined this. Is they would take lab rats and they would give them one water. They'd just be in a cage, small cage. They'd have one water bottle with something like heroin or cocaine or crack or meth or whatever. They'd have laced in the water. On one side of the tank, on the other side of the tank was just plain water. And so they found that they would, with the like heroin laced water bottle, the rat would just go over to that over and over and over again, even to the point where it would refuse to drink actual clean water free of drugs, and then it would end up dying. So like, okay, that's a physically dependent. That's a very addictive drug. That's how we know there are chemical hooks that get inside of the brain and addict you, and it's just a physiological thing. So this guy comes along and he's like, I don't think that's right. Like what else does this rat have to do? It's in a prison. You've imprisoned this rat. It's not living how it's intended to live in nature. It has nothing else to do. So, like, of course it's going to want to escape from the suffering you're putting it through by keeping it in this cage. So this guy comes along and he creates what he calls rat park or rat heaven. And it's basically like, it's a huge, giant, not even enclosure. It's just like, they have so much room to run around and be free, all these things to play with. There's other rats for them to interact with. They can have sex and do all the fun things that rats like to do. And it was just basically like a haven, like any rat would like give anything to live this life and be in this rat heaven that he created. And so then what he did is he strategically placed, certain water bottles that were like laced with heroin, and then other water bottles that were laced with water, but they were easily accessible to any of the rats. And what they found was that after a time, the rats would discover, okay, this one has heroin in it. They learned which ones have the drugs in it. They would actually purposefully avoid the water bottles with the drugs so that they could interact and do all their other fun rat stuff and not be messed up by the drugs. So it completely sort of like revolutionized, how we view, the
title of the TED Talk is "Everything You Think You Know About Addiction Is Wrong."
Right. And so the guy goes on to say, this applies to humans as well. He says it's not, because they've also done studies, I guess, where, they would, like, some people, they can, if they have an injury or surgery or something, they'll give them prescription painkillers, and they can be on them for long enough to where they would say, that would cause a physical dependency. But then the doctor says, okay, it's time to get off, and they stop taking it, and they never have any withdrawal, and they never have any cravings for it, and they're fine. And then other people could go through the same thing, and then they'd really be suffering, and they go out and seek it on their own, and they become a drug addict and go down this line of drug dependency. And so they started to theorize, what else is it? There has to be some other aspect. Maybe it's not just the fact that there are these chemical hooks that get inside of the brain. What else is going on in these people's lives? And what they're finding is that it's people without connection to other human beings, people who don't feel supported, people who don't have love in their life and connection or spiritual connection or connection with other humans. And things. These are the people that are more likely to have difficulty with addiction and weaning off of substances and things. It's because they're trying to fill some kind of void in their life. And a really interesting little story this guy shares also is he talks about how he went and they were interviewing some tribal community, and I think it was Africa, and so they were asking somehow the topic came up of like an antidepressant, and the guy didn't understand. He's like, what does that mean? I don't know what an antidepressant is. And so the guy explained, it's something we give to people, when they're feeling, really down and sad, and they can't get out of that helps bring them back up and makes them feel happy. And he goes, oh, we have that. It's right over there. And he points to a cow. And so the guy's really confused. He's like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, that cow, that's an antidepressant. And he said, so let me tell you a story. We had this one guy in our village. He was very sad, very down, very depressed. He didn't have a whole lot to do. He didn't have a family, and so he was really really, really down. And so the community got together, and we bought him a cow. And then taking care of the cow and milking the cow and using that as a means to give back to the community and connect and everything by making products from the milk and all that, and just having this other life to take care of brought him out of that depressed down state that he was in. So they're like, the cow is the antidepressant. But it's just, to them, it just shows that, there's so much more to look at. And in the West, we tend to just see everything, all these little problems that happen to us, especially if you go to the doctors or a psychiatrist. You got anxiety, depression, PTSD, whatever. It's just, there's a chemical imbalance in your brain. There's nothing you got to do about it. Take these drugs. If they help, they help. If not, you're fucked. And
we got it. Well, it's all done now. We'll have to look at this one as obscene content or whatever. People are starting to put it out there more and more that we need to look at the whole story. It's not just about the chemicals in the brain. There's so much more happening. Our guest on Holistic Health and Healing podcast today with Dr. K, we had Benson Fox on, and he had the whole thing where anxiety, depression, anger, all these things, they're all valuable and they're all alarms. I mean, that it itself isn't the problem. It's telling you information. The depression alarm means hey, there's this big trauma and it was so much pain at once that you can't deal with it all. And this is the way to mitigate that. And it's a tool to use and go back, but it's useful.
Yeah.
And he had a wonderful take. I think it was around the 35-minute mark. If anybody wants to go back, I have to edit out the beginning because there was the tech problems all over the place. But but he had a wonderful take on it, and the whole conversation was leading around with things that we think are pain points are really just information telling us that that's a problem. He's like, I promise you, anxiety has never attacked you. It's an alarm going off giving you information, and then you can go look at it and start to deal with the things, but it itself isn't the thing that's attacking you. It's just the alarm. It was a really refreshing conversation if people want to go back and check it out, and very in line with where we're talking about it, but where he's a psychologist. So I mean, it was all from the clinical perspective, but a really holistic take on it.
It's fascinating you bring that up also, because I was just having a conversation with one of my clients right before we hopped on. Who knows? It could have been in that exact minute you were talking about that. I don't know. But he was saying, he had a day where he felt really heavy, but that he felt so guilty, that he had this day where he was feeling more heavy and depressed and things. And he was beating himself up, like, oh man, I wasn't there and present and really taking advantage and enjoying life and all of that. And, I told him, I'm like, listen, even the most enlightened master, even the most awakened, wise masters on the planet, even the Dalai Lama has days where he feels depressed. He has times where he feels anxious. Things like that. It's part of the human experience, and they're not a bad thing. They only become bad when we label them as bad in our head. And if you beat yourself up and you feel guilty about it, then you're like, you're just giving more power to that. Yeah. But instead, if you allow yourself to feel those things, when you have a day where you feel depressed, allow yourself to feel depressed. Say it's fine. I have this day where I feel down. Allow yourself to whatever, just be in all that muck for a bit, and know that your state is going to change and that you're going to be in a better place. But the more you resist that, and you create guilt around it and heaviness around the fact that you're feeling heavy, well, that's a horrible feedback loop. It's just going to keep you trapped in it.
He had this masterful way, like this came up on the stream, and I was asking, like, what do you do when people are really, stuck in their stuff? And he used shame as an example, and he gave a couple other ones. But when people are talking about shame and not liking to have shame, he's like, well, it sounds like you're shaming your shame. And they're like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, how does that feel to you? They're like, well, it feels fine. And he's like, so your shame has a tool. It's a use, and it's not something to be guilty of. It's a tool that allows you to have information to now choose differently. And it was just masterful the way that he did it. He did it with anger, shame, guilt. Like, he would just give these examples of how you would take what you're feeling as negative and put a spin on to see a useful application and come to a place of neutrality where it's just information that you can then use to choose. And it was beautifully done from a psychological standpoint.
I've come to realize with myself also that, if there are days, and they're quite few and far between nowadays, especially compared to when I was younger. But if I do have days where I'm feeling more down and depressed, I look at that as like, this is my body telling me I need to rest and take it easy. And I allow myself to feel that, okay, fine, I'm a little down, that's all right. Rest, take it easy. And I know that that's my body's way of, telling me like, it's time to recharge, rest, do nothing. You don't feel like doing anything. You just want to lay around and do nothing. Then lay around and do nothing, because as soon as you come out of this, you're going back out into the world and you're creating all kinds of change for all kinds of people. So you need this time to rest. And it's fine to feel that way.
Yeah. Patty Conklin, who's one of the people I look up to. She's one of my teachers for medical intuition and vibrational medicine and stuff like that. But she would say, when the shit hits the fan, have yourself a pity party, and then you get over it. If you need to take a day and dive into it, don't judge yourself for doing it, but you don't stay there. You do it. And in your case, it's more about the body just recharging. But there's sometimes where you're in such self-judgment even to allow yourself and not resist that and then just move through it. But it's when we're like, I shouldn't feel this way. Now you're prolonging it because you're fighting the feelings that are coming up, and what you resist persists. But if you just say, I'm going to be fully present with the self-pity, and now I'm going to choose differently, you just move through things way more quickly. But what you resist persists, and we sometimes end up in this trap of not allowing ourselves to be, because we judge where we're going as wrong.
I like that. Yeah, it really is. We're law of attraction, everything. We state things like where energy flows, where your attention goes. So if you're putting all of your attention on the fact that like, oh, I feel so depressed, I hate this, then you're telling the universe like, hey man, like all I'm thinking about is depression. Like, this is really important to me, all this good depression stuff. So the universe is going to give you way more of it. But if instead, and it takes practice, but everyone can do it. Everyone can do it. Start to notice the way you feel without commenting on it. That's a powerful, powerful thing to do. Be present in your body. Now, if you are feeling anxiety, depression, or whatever, go into that. Find out, where does it really sit in your body? Is it right here in your chest? Do you feel it more in your head, your neck and shoulders, and just in your gut? Where do you really feel that? And and see if you can be the space for that anxiety or depression or whatever it is. See if you can be the space to just observe that and hold that. And oftentimes what you'll notice is if you can really just bring your full awareness without judging, without commenting, and you can just hold the space for that, it will start to shift, and it will start to become lighter, and it will start to dissipate on its own, just by you being the non-judgmental, perfectly aware space.
Yeah, and a lot of time that is because as empaths and psychics and as infinite beings that are aware of everything, we are picking up on somebody else's feelings. And if you're not labeling it, now it just flows through you like a cloud through the sky. But as soon as you go, oh no, like now you're owning it. Like if you name it, you claim it, they say for empaths. So that you just become aware of it and hold the space for it. And like a cloud through the sky, it just passes on by. There is my little corny rhyme for the day. What else is possible? Absolutely. That goes right along with it when you feel that what's right about this I'm not getting. There's a lot of questions and tools and access and metaphysics and shamanism that all are designed to allow you to be fully present with things, but shift into a different possibility to choose an action instead of reacting, responding instead of reacting. And welcome back, Shauna. I think she was our mysterious Facebook user. She's like,
very cool.
that. I bet you it was her, but I don't know.
Welcome. So bringing it full circle back to what we've just been talking about, back around to the breath work, right? And that we started with in the beginning.
Is this like circular breathing? I'm making a pun.
Yes, it is. So the breath, man. The breath is one of the most powerful and incredible tools that we have that most people just don't take advantage of. So, and it directly connects. It's the bridge between the conscious and unconscious processes of the body. For example, your heart beating and pumping your blood, you don't have conscious control over that. I mean, sure, maybe some crazy monks who spent years and years meditating can perfectly control the way their heart beats and things. But for the average person, it's a totally unconscious process. Your heart just beats and it pumps blood throughout your system. It's digestive system. You take a bite of something, you swallow it, your digestive system just goes to work. You're not sitting there consciously controlling, say, okay, stomach, release this enzyme and that enzyme and this much acid. It automatic processes. But the breath is something that can be both an automatic process that just happens without any thinking, without conscious control, but it's something that we can also take conscious control of. So it's the bridge between the conscious and unconscious processes, the top down and the bottom up processes of the body. So it goes both ways. For example, if when people are really, feeling a lot of anxiety, for example, oftentimes they're breathing really shallow, really short, shallow breaths. And then if you're think of what you do, say for example, you see this, you come on top of like a big hill or a mountain or something after a long hike, you see this beautiful, like sunset or something, for example, you just take that, that kind of deep, like that breath like that. It just kind of happens automatically, that deep breath that we take. And so when we're experiencing joy and elation and things like this, we breathe a certain way. And so there was a study done. There's another TED Talk about this. There's many TED Talks about the breath, like dozens and dozens of TED Talks about the breath. It's amazing. But in the one I was listening to, the lady said that they did a study where they took a group of people and they told them, okay, I want you to feel a certain emotion. Think about memories that bring up anger, right? And make yourself as angry as possible. And they hooked them up to this thing that recorded their exact breathing pattern. So how deep, how shallow they were breathing, how much, whether it was in their stomach, their chest, the interval between breath and inhale and exhale, the pauses in between, everything was all recorded. And then they did that for all different emotions: anger, sadness, fear, joy, happiness, elation, peace, all these things. And then they took a completely separate group of people that had no idea about the first experiment. They weren't told anything about it. All they were done is that they gave them, okay, I want you to breathe in this exact pattern. So the one that they recorded for the person that was angry, they had them breathe, and they didn't tell them it had anything to do with anger. They just said, just breathe like this and then tell us how you feel. Like, I feel kind of angry right now. So they noticed there was a direct correlation just by breathing in these different patterns. It would create those emotional states within people's bodies.
This is an NLP thing too. They don't use the breath, but they call it model, artist, and clay. And the person who's the model thinks of an experience and they go into the physiology of it. And then the person sees them and they use another person as clay and duplicate the physiology and then ask that person how they feel. And by duplicating the physiology, it takes into the same state of whatever the inspiration was for the pose. So I'm just paralleling it to that, like even the physiology, like the breath of being part of that, of how powerful that is to start to shift out of like I say, change your physiology, you change your point of view, you change what you're experiencing. And it's also a way to tap into, like, if you like a medium, the inspiration stumper that you see on TV, if you duplicate their physiology, you can tune into the same way that they're getting information. And breath work and the physiology go hand in hand with that.
Absolutely. And so it's so cool. So there, and one really simple thing, simple tool, if you are feeling, really anxious, fight or flight kind of feelings, is you just start to breathe out more slowly than you're breathing in. So they say to breathe out twice as long as you breathe in. So if you breathe in for 5 seconds, breathe out for 10. And for me, doing a single breath that way, I immediately feel myself start to come down and the parasympathetic starts to engage even more.
Well,
just a single breath.
Anchoring. And I do 3 deep breaths. That's always been my meditation practice. But that I didn't think about just doing 1 breath. That would have been so much more useful, right? It takes 1 breath to get there. But if you do like any relaxing practice and start with a breath like that, you're also setting an anchor for that relaxation state that you're about. Interesting. Did you hear that, or is that just me?
Oh. Hold on 1 second.
I've heard, being a medium, like sometimes you're like wondering, like, am I hearing something, or is there a spirit?
No, it was my brother just walked past my door while I was talking really loud on the phone. So that's what that was.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's fine. I just got to make sure that, see, that's why I have office hours. So stuff like that doesn't happen, but I have to wonder, because I remember like one time when I was meditating, I thought I was imagining like this little girl like coming up to me, and she's like right by my ear, and I'm just like meditating and everything. And then I audibly hear, "Excuse me." And then I freaked out when running up the stairs, like, oh my God, there's this, but so like I have to wonder, like, sometimes am I shifting into a different place? Okay, I'm glad it wasn't that.
But other than that, so also on top of just doing relaxing breath like that, breath work, there are certain forms of breath work that are really powerful for creating emotional change and integrating trauma and things that continue to generate these anxious emotions. So we do this really intense form of breathing, or like Tank was saying, circular breathing, so there's no pause at the top or the bottom of the breath, and you breathe very deep and very fast. So like a vibration style, like kind of circular breathing with, if I exaggerate the sound, because you're not actually like pushing or making a lot of sound like this, but if you exaggerate it, it's like full breaths, you breathe that way. And then what you do is you start to feel, what is the strongest sensation in my body right now? Whether it's an emotion or physical pain or whatever, you go into that, whatever the strongest sensation is, and you imagine the breath is coming in and out of that spot. And you breathe and you start to ask yourself, if it is painful, if it is uncomfortable, what would it feel like if I could enjoy this just like 1% more? And what about 1% more than that? What if I can enjoy it even a little bit more than I am now with every breath? And then saying yes, say yes to the feeling. Yes, yes, yes. And you keep doing that until either that sensation goes from discomfort or pain into pleasure, and we call that integration into ecstasy. Or when that's no longer the strongest sensation in your body, you may just notice, oh, I don't notice that sensation anymore. Then you move on to the next strongest sensation in your body, and you just repeat that process. And I tell you what, some of the most powerful emotional transformation I've ever experienced has been doing that style of breathing. And it creates, doing it for that long also puts you into this incredible altered state, where it's almost like you've taken some kind of like psychedelic plant medicine or something. But it's all through just endogenous, production of chemicals and changing your blood alkalinity. Your blood goes far more alkaline when you're doing that. It's incredible what happens. And we have the ability to alter our state in these powerful ways, as though we were taking potent psychedelics just through our own breath. Like, we have this technology within our bodies, but we're never taught that we can do this. It's incredible to me.
Yeah. And then even practicing with the breath, like some people can just go there. Like I think you weren't on the call yet, but I've had the experience before where I get a certain tone of a particular medicine or something like that, and I just like kind of fall into that, hold that space for my client. And one client was saying just like she was on mushrooms, but there was no mushrooms involved. It was just this one frequency that came in, and so you can really attune yourself to like the different, like Zane calls it, the fields of information, the different fields of possibilities and everything by getting there through breath. And then once you know those areas, the breath is a great tool, but you can even go there just to go there. Just because you discipline yourself to know that that's where I can go to get this type of information or this type of effect. And then as a healer, you can translate that to your client and hold the space for them to have that, even if, but breath is so dynamic. And to your point, it integrates the worlds in a way, not in a way, it definitely does.
Yeah. And Hank, I don't know
if, Karana. Yep.
I don't know if you remember this, but speaking of what you were just talking about, so it was when we first reconnected and I had my first healing session with you, you channeled the energy of a particular plant medicine. And
was it coca? I don't remember.
No, I don't know if it's okay to mention.
Okay.
Do you care?
I don't care.
It was well, the plant version is sassafras, but the we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm fine with that. That's a frequency I know very well.
Okay.
MDMA. It's in the clinical study. Yeah, it's in clinical studies as well for like post-traumatic stress and for all kinds of wonderful things. But it does come from sassafras. So calling the spirit of sassafras is the tone of that plant.
So he calls in just the energy of it, and I didn't know that's what he was calling in at the time. But I started like doing all this stuff, like these big belly roll breaths and stuff, and Hank told me afterwards that was like the kind of physiological things that people do when they're having an experience with MDMA, and all he did was call on the energy of it, but I was feeling like the physical like changes and effects happening in my body, and he just called in the energy of that, because everything's frequency, everything's energy, everything all exists right here, right now in this one unified field, so you have access to everything at any given time.
Yeah. And we all have different ways of accessing, like Casey is really adapted with breath. And for me, like the tones, like I get a tone and I'm like, I know that is that plant or that is that frequency. And when it's there, I bring it through because I figure the person's there that's here to work with them. And Casey, I think, does the same thing, but maybe just feels it energetically as opposed to like hearing something, because we all have different ways that we perceive the world and information. My gift is just audio.
Yeah, I'm much more feeling and seeing, but I also hear.
Yeah. We all do it all, but this is niche.
Yeah, my niche is definitely more feeling and seeing for sure. But there was something we were talking about, breath work and calling this in. And I was going to say, I really think that, like Hank was saying, like falling into these deep states. I really think that like meditation, for example, is far more powerful than breath work. But I think breath work is a beautiful way to, like, as a stepping stone to start. And in fact, in a lot of like yogic traditions, they teach breath work first before they teach meditation, because it's easier. It's easier to sit there, because if you just take someone who's never sat down on any meditation, you tell them just, okay, clear your mind and do this. Their mind's going to go in a million different directions. They're going to have a lot of difficulty with that. But if instead you tell them, sit there and focus on your breath, breathe in this way. Here's a breath count. Here's a pattern. Anyone can sit there and do that, especially if they're coached through it. But eventually, like Hank was saying, you can take the training wheels off of that and you can access far more potent, far more powerful, far deeper states than you could even through breath work, just by going there with your conscious intention through meditation. And I think it's more potent, in my opinion.
Well, and everybody's different with that. But the thing with meditation that really sticks, especially the Western mind, is when you start to get quiet, all your shit starts to come up. They call it the heaving the boulders. Like, okay, you're quieting the mind, and all the places where you've ever held judgment about yourself or others, that's all the hucha. Judgment, that's the duality, the things that lock you into polarity, and all that stuff starts getting heaved up, and the mind goes, I don't want to deal with any of that. I'm going to start thinking about this and this and this, and it starts deflecting because it doesn't want to look at that stuff. And so I like going into meditation, asking someone, when have you ever judged yourself, judged another, been unloving to yourself, unloved another? That is all the stuff your brain is desperately trying not to allow up. And once you identify that, you can settle into the silence way more easily, because that stuff has been called out already. But
Yeah, it's
I was
oh
just looking
here.
at my cousin was making a comment. I have found water can be a powerful and grounding as well. Working in a hospital with a lot of grief, I found that just letting water go over my hands to be grounding and cleansing energy.
Hmm.
Mama Uno, and you can call her in energetically too if you can't wash your hands. Use English if you like, but I like Quechua way better. But Yari Mama Uno, ompwe, 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 Mother Water, bring your healing here and the energy of water to start cleansing that as well.
It was fascinating. I was hanging out with Anthony and Mary the other day, and I was just showing them some things. Like, here's what's possible, just to kind of play around with energy, and I think we were like holding hands in this energy circle, and we were like creating different energies and things. And then I at one point I was like, "Iari, Mama Unu, Mother Water, bring your healing here." And he and Anthony was like, "Whoa!" He's like, "My whole body feels wet." And then I called in the earth, and he's like, "I feel like I'm covered in like dirt right now." And then I would call in the sun, and he's like, "I just feel really hot." And then like every little thing I was calling, he was just feeling the like the physical aspects of these different elements. So yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we have access to everything all at once, all the time. It's just a matter of learning to tune to different frequencies. It's all about learning to tune to whatever frequency you need to tune into at that time.
Yeah. And final call for questions and comments or at the 55-minute mark. I know
Wow,
it's like
man,
it just flew by.
that did fly by.
Just
Wow.
super fast. We started a little bit late today because I started a little bit late for another stream before this, and yeah. But just other things coming up tomorrow. I'm doing book part 3 of the "Money's Not the Problem, You Are" book. So if you have been following that along, the streams only stay up for 48 hours unless you're in the Emergence of Being Facebook group where I forget to delete them. You can go back and see all the other parts, but I do that and that stays up for 40 hours. So if you want to check out that, I will be on at 9 a.m. tomorrow, just doing a little bit of reading from that book. What do you have? You don't have a regular scheduled stream other than this one. You just kind of random, right?
Yeah, well, I do plan maybe later today, but if not today, then I think tomorrow definitely. I'm going to be going on and doing another live shamanic healing, like live stream. So if you go to Shaman's Way on YouTube, subscribe and turn on the notifications. You'll get notified when I do go live. That'll pop up. And then I take people from the comments. And if you've got physical pain, emotional suffering, whatever you're going through, I just work through the comments to help facilitate healing for people. And it's amazing, man. I've had people with like severe chronic physical pain, like bulging discs and post-surgical pain and like rheumatoid arthritis, all kinds of things. And just through the healing through the comments, I've seen people completely eliminate pain, people with anxiety and depression completely freed of that in just a few minutes through the comments. So yeah, subscribe to Shaman's Way for that beautiful possibility.
Yep, and all my stuff streams to the Sonic Shaman. Also on YouTube, you can search for it. Well, I'll update the description. I forgot to put the links in. I have it even somewhere where it's all copy and pastable, but I didn't do that because I don't know. I just chose to be lazy, I suppose. And Casey, and I think the stream to the Emergence of Being channel, because there's like 3 main channels where you're going to find our content. Or if you go to emergenceofbeing.com under live streams, there is a thing there for every single channel for all the contributors. So you'll find Dr. K's channel, my personal one, Casey's, Emergence of Being, all that. But we did this virtual. Well, we didn't know we were going to do it. We started working together online, like how Casey does his healings through the comments. But I was bringing more of the Yatchai, the mental energy in, and we had this beautiful virtual soul retreat where we just played back and forth off each other, and it was
so incredible.
Yeah, and it's really good. It's worth going to see just that, and substitute yourself in for that. Like, okay, what soul pieces do you have? Watching that and slipping into the energy, allow that energy to be for you, even though it's in the past and it was intended for someone else. You can benefit from going through that too.
Absolutely. And, I've had people that really are open to, and ready to receive that. I've had people comment, they were watching, a month or 2 after I did a live stream, and they were like, you were healing someone else's back. I had back pain as well. And I just decided I was opening up and the healing was for me, and my back pain went away as well. So absolutely, if you're willing to receive it, yeah, you can receive a lot of contribution from going back and watching those.
And another thing I was just bringing up, very beginning of May, if anybody is interested in doing the shamanic training that Casey and I have gone through, we're starting a new 9-month apprenticeship, and your requirement's like 2 to 3 hours a week if at the minimum. It's not going to take a ton of time out of your day. It's going to be pre-recorded lessons plus a live call every week, sometimes more than one live call, but over a 9-month period, because how long does it take to create a life? You're like rebirthing yourself anew to the highest authentic voice you can be in this world.
I like that.
So like,
how long does it take to create a life? Oh,
yeah, well, a human life. It's really like it's the gestation period for a new human. And if you look at it through the process of alchemy, through the program, because you have earth, you have water, wind, sun, like Kuichi, the rainbow, the bridge of transcendence, it's a process of alchemy of your shadow, your hucha, of working it around the mesa and enlightening it. So like, it's an amazing thing. But if you go to calloftheshaman.com, that is where you can find, actually, Facebook doesn't like redirect links. Go to transcendentminds.org. I'll post a link, because Facebook gets all funky if you post links that forward to a different domain. I have my advertising account like suspended for like a year because of that crap. So I'm not going to accidentally do it again. But transcendentminds.org, you can find all the information. And there's some interviews of Zane on Emergence of Being where he's talking about what the program is. And I'm going to be putting those into the landing page as well. Like, it's a phenomenal process to go through, and really good people in it.
For anyone looking to take some kind of course or just learn more about themselves, to develop themselves spiritually, or especially if you want to learn how to help others with your spiritual gifts, if you want to learn how to heal and hold space and facilitate healing for others, there is nothing on the planet that I would recommend more highly than this apprenticeship. And I've been learning and studying and practicing for over 13 years.
And he vetted it too. Like, he came to someone else for a consultation. Then he came to me and then got the healing for me. And like, and then he said, yeah, that was legit. And then he was like all in. Like, I was like, you vetted me. You were like testing me, like, is he a real shaman? Or, because you were taught by the spirit world, and they were going to just send you to anyone to learn from. But then through that connection got Zane and all that.
I've been there. There are Reiki healers a dime a dozen. I've been to a lot of Reiki healers where I have felt almost nothing from the healing sessions that they try and facilitate. And I think they have every good intention. I think they have every intention of doing good. I don't think they're actually trying out there to like scam people or anything, but it's just that these people haven't had actual training. And they're not really fully spiritually developed. And so I had been to many healers and I almost gave up. I'm like, maybe there's no one around. Maybe you do have to travel to the jungle or go out to China and find a Qigong master, to really learn. And then, I experienced that healing session with Hank, and I'm like, all right, this is the real deal. Sign me up. Where did you learn? Where do I learn? Let's do it.
That was it was so serendipitous too, because Casey and I had met years and years before at Gotta Sleep, just in passing. I was a store reader, but he was in as a customer, making energy balls and throwing them at each other, stuff, just fun things. And then we exchanged information, never connected until years
9 years later.
9 years later, and then here he comes in. I remembered him. I remember even walking by you in the tea shop in the mall when you worked there for a week. I'm like, I know that guy. I remember this guy.
Well, the most wild thing is so I signed up for a healing session with you. All he had was my name. He met me 9 years ago. I had this interaction, and all he had on this form when I signed up for a session with him was just my name. And he calls me and he's like, hey, there's a little bit of a scheduling conflict. Can we reschedule? And by the way, did we meet each other like 9 years ago at Goddess Elite? And I'm like, you remembered me just from my name? That blew me away.
Well, Casey leaves an impression on people,
I guess so.
No, but in all seriousness, though, like, just the serendipity of how I found the program, how you found the program. If you feel the call to empower yourself, this is the best training this will be my 4th time going through. And I'm not one to waste time and things, but every time it's different. And even Zane is continued. He always says he's forever the student. He's constantly learning and adapting and changing. And it's called a living tradition. It changes for the time. So year to year, as the world changes, things are changing and what comes up. And you just go where you need to go. So check out transcendentminds.org and see if it calls to you.
And don't put it off for someday,
Yeah, no someday.
because you say like, oh, well, maybe next time around. I'm not quite ready for it. Someday I'll do that though. Someday I will. Someday never comes. Do it now. Do it now. As Arnold Schwarzenegger says.
And we're hammering it home because how much it's changed our lives. So if you have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to Casey, reach out to Zane, Don Zane Kerfman at Gmail. Oh, actually, reach out to me and then I'll reach out to Zane because I don't know how often he checks his email, but you can email him. It's Don Zane Kerfman at gmail.com. But I help organize all his stuff now because it's that life changing and everything. Anything else? Now we've gone over an hour. I'm going to have to edit the video. But now it's at least easier for me to do.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm glad you got into that. That's good. No, that's about it.
First, but
yeah, that's. I'm 99.9% sure that Positive Pineapple is having another plunge, cold plunge this Sunday at Hinckley. What do they call it, like the Overflow or something?
Well, if they're cool, if they like, put it on the Stir Crazy Shamans meetup. Like we can help advertise that.
Oh, cool.
Meetup. Like as long as they're cool with it being on there, then we can put that up as a meetup and help get the word out. And for those of you who don't know, like if you go to stircrazyshamans.com, there is like a social media thing on the right hand side, and one is for meetup. It will take you to our meetup, and that is for all the local things. Like now that the weather's breaking, we'll meet in the park and do ceremonies and go on hikes and all that kind of stuff. If you're local, you can sign up there and you'll get notification of all the local things that we do, because we're not all just talk. We like going out in nature and running around and finding all kinds of fun nature spirits to engage with, do despacho ceremonies, hapaikusei ceremonies, kintu ceremonies. We'll do all kinds of fun things.
Oh yeah, it's great. Lots of possibility. This is going to be an amazing year. I feel like we have this tribe coming together, both, online with all of these people that are discovering us, but especially in person. If you are in person, if you are in the area or you're passing through and you can be a part of the in-person stuff, the collective energy when we come together, especially lately for me, has been so incredibly potent. We're changing the world, man. I can feel it. It's so powerful right now.
And if you go, that's our tagline, actually. If you go to stircrazyshamans.com, on the upper left, it says changing the world through sacred play, which the word for the game of life for sacred play is Wilkapupliai Kausei Pacha, which is like the sacred game of life, if you want. Or Puplay is just sacred play. But I said it a little bit more dramatically because we mean like the game of life, the sacred playing of the game of life.
So beautiful. And everyone, I guess I'd just like to say thank you, for being here, for contributing, for holding space and for sharing all of this with everyone, and for being open to receiving all this information. The more we can open our minds, the more we open up and are willing to receive, listen, and consider new possibilities, the more we grow. So let's all grow together. Let's all become the most perfect version of ourselves. So thank you all for being here.
Yeah. Anaiki, Wilka Nuna, Penichai Kuna, Wakuchai Kuna. Thank you, all you sacred soul brothers and sisters. Anaiki.
Arpichai Songolai.
Yeah, see, we did it backwards. Usually he says Anaiki and I say Arpichai Sokolai, but that worked out perfectly. Until next time, everyone.